After I finished the last life of the email, I wallowed in the affect disposition of discomfort that the mustard gas injection in my veins brought upon me. But hopefully, this will be the last time I'll ever feel like that, so I should cherish the aforementioned disposition as a parting token. Who's to say? Regardless of how regardless of how I should regard it, I felt blah. Hence, I watched anime until time for food game, at which point my family graciously gave me empanadas, which were really expensive for their size, by the way. Holy cow! And those were barely tolerable. And I felt big nauseous, so they were hardly enjoyed. Thereafter, having eaten a bit, I turned my backlog life of the emails into videos for YouTube before researching cancer scholarships, because, like I said before, if you're going to get cancer, you might as well leverage it. Did that, and I still don't remember after that what I did, but, I'm sure it was trivial and unimportant. Benj came over at some point, and I was still feeling lethargic, so Ben ended up carrying the social weight, which is honestly quite appreciated. I ate pizza, and it almost tasted okay, and then we all went over to CSU, we meaning Benj, me, Grace, and Ben, and we ended up playing ping pong with chairs, which, while largely ineffective, was actually pretty fun. There's a skill set to chair pong, I will say. Toward the end there, Benj and I had something going. Once we got back, I was big tired, so I went to sleep. The next morning, I didn't go to church because I needed bonus sleep given my state. I then attended the Wade's Easter party, but only in body, not in spirit. My spirit was very absent from my zombie state. The party was quite lackluster. I was feeling bad, hence I left early. Once I got home, I attempted to sleep with negligible success. I made a letter for my D&D campaign, and then I went over to Neon City's house for Easter dinner. Yet, amidst such dinner, I did pop back home to consume a copious amounts of jalapeno pop peppers because Mom made them and they are fire. But after eating those for 20 minutes straight, I did go back to the Balance Place where I watched an episode of Avatar and Phineas and Ferb. See, Phineas and Ferb has aged very well in my mind. As good as I remember being. Maybe better. Avatar, much less so. That show is kind of garbage. I remember loving it, but, oh well. It's big sad. It's like My Little Pony all over again. Once I left the Balance House, I stopped by King Soopers, got some body armor, and then went home and went to sleep once more. Monday, I felt significantly better, so that was a big and nice. I then met with the buffest man I know, Merik, to discuss the secrets of his strength. It was actually very interesting. At first, he did this weird thing where he hardcore avoided eye contact. We would talk and not make eye contact at all. But then, as we got into it, and especially as I got to, theology stuff, and that's why I gave him an exchange for his theoretical knowledge about muscles. He then stopped with the radical eye contact chastity and instead was more normal. Maybe it's an indication of his degree of comfortability, but I don't know, it was quite noticeable. Side tangent, but maybe I'm just super highly sensitive to eye contact. I don't pay much attention to most nonverbal cues because I'm me, but it seems like eye contact must be the exception because Merrick's lack thereof was very noticeable to me. And, also the postulated INF Jay's barista excessive eye contact, the can I have a kiss on the lips barista? Yeah, I noticed that too, so it must be my non-social verbal cue. Plants a flag in the soil. I hereby claim eye contact for the illustrious nation of Alexandria. Anyway, eye contact, strangers aside, he was quite helpful and gave me a work routine that I would be employing in the present age to come, the great buffness age. The whole conversation lasted 2 hours or so. Once I got home, I did Funime, and from there I did philosophy, worked on life deal backlogs, ate some food at Joe's, engaged in standard D&D practice, watched a few episodes of Blue Lock, and then went home a touch early. But before going to sleep, I was sure to stop by Wendy's for their big cheap burgers, and I put the jalapeno popper stuff on it, and it was very delicious. Tuesday, I began my new routine, which I intend to uphold, whereby I eat mushroom protein for breakfast. See, because of my genetic stuff, I'm now aware of the likely deficiencies I have, and hence trying to compensate by eating foods and that contain those things I'm deficient in. So, I'm putting flaxseed in my eggs and stuff, which honestly isn't bad. And I'm also eating muju avocado, stuff like that. There's a small chance that I become something of a health nut in this upcoming season of my life. Anyway, did that routine, went to class, got home, did philosophy, ate some leftover jalapeno popper peppers, and then went to sleep at 7. I know, it's super early, but chemo makes me want to go sleep a lot. I spent a full 14 hours of sleep that night. Well, 14 hours sleeping that night, which was big nice, and then I engaged in some breakfast routine stuff. Oh, I forgot to mention I used to listen to a podcast as I do breakfast making, and then I watch an anime episode as I eat the breakfast that I made. After I finished my routine, I felt robustly unproductive. This does happen to me from time to time. I just become your typical FI dom, but it still catches me off guard when it happens. So yeah, I didn't really do much. I laid in the sun. That felt nice. Contact people, see if they wanted to do something, but they were all busy, which did not feel nice. And then after staying in that state for an age, I motivated myself to go over to CSU, sit in the sauna, and kind of pull myself out of my lazy funk. Once I got back, I did live update and backlog recording, philosophy reading, and then I joined Grace, Emerson, and Adelie in their hangout, and we climbed to Ben's Rock in the Risk Canyon. At this point in time, Mom has deemed me the teenage girl whisperer, which I think is kind of funny. But yeah, it was a good time and I enjoyed it. Once I got back from that, I just did some philosophy before bed. Thursday, I did my routine, had class, registered for the classes of next semester, and then that went off without a hitch. I then walked down the mountain. The street, and commented on houses with Ben, Benj, Grace, and Johanna, before eventually arriving at Mugs, where I used the power of MBTI to divulge all of Rebecca's and Ben's secrets, which was very fun. Also, I met Ben's girlfriend, Annalise, for the first time. She seemed mild interesting. Thereafter, Ben, Joe, David, and I engaged in spikeball games, and that was great fun. I could definitely tell my body hadn't fully recovered from the chemo yet because my reaction time was slower, my muscles ached, and I felt like I might pull them. I also got so tired so fast. Regardless, it was good to have physical activity again, though, and I'm really glad I got to play. From there, Mom got us keto burritos, since keto was doing this free burrito thing where if you buy a burrito, there's a free burrito. And then Benji and I watched Saga of Tyler and the Eel as we ate that. From there, I picked up Neo, drove to Joe's house, and great singing on that drive occurred. Neo's actually learning the lyrics to my songs, so yay. Once at Joe's, we engaged in some Diablo playing. We meaning me, Noah, Joe, and I. And then we did that until about 10:30 at night. And then we came back home. Friday, I performed my morning routine with the soothing voice of the boss entering my ears. I then took a nap. I don't know why I did that. It seems kind of odd. I wake up, eat breakfast, go back to sleep. But yeah, I'm sure there was a good reason. I then did some Spout Dynamics reading, only to receive a call from Caleb where he was like, "Yo, you free?" Me. Yep. Caleb. You like money? Me. Yep. Caleb. Could you be at my house in 15 minutes? Me. Yep. And that was it. Me and him have me and him helped the legendary rich lady, which I think I've talked about before. I'm not sure. All right, brief tangent. I'm going to promise it won't take long. So long ago, when Caleb was just a lad and his mother advertised him on Craigslist, like any good mother would, he was procured by this woman who had odd jobs at irregular intervals for copious sums of money. So ever since that, whenever she needs, in this case, a TV mountain or dogs at blind leash established, she calls him up and pays him way more than his efforts are worth. Back in the day, I was included in one such job and profited handsomely. Hence, when he told me the same woman had a job for him and needed, a building buddy, I was like, oh yeah, I'm in. So yeah, nice short tangent, right? Anyway, I drove with him to said legendary rich lady's house. We did some things that we did in a timely manner, and he gave me $75, making me the richer for 2 hours of work. So that was profitable. I then got free Wendy's because Wendy's is doing this thing where you can get a large fry for free with purchase, but it treats your rewards as a purchase. Hence, if you pick the cheapest reward option, then you can get a chicken sandwich and a large fries for literally $0, which is fantastic, and what I did. I honestly don't understand how Wendy's does not lose money. But hey, keep doing what you're doing, Wendy's. Thereafter, I did Funame, went straight from there to join Grace for singing lessons with Rowan. Honestly, I think that went pretty well. Rowan is actually great. Very cool ICJ, and man, can he sing. So I'm hoping to level up significantly through his tutelage. I then did some more Life of Demo backlog recording, worked on getting those online until I went to sleep. The Saturday that began upon my waking was occupied with Cable's Indonesia gathering and fundraising event. David showed up, because he just does that. I swear that man is always where I least expect him. And we chatted some, and then he helped me brave the social inertia and join the table with mostly females. So it's always that first, sitting down uninvited moment that's rough. After that, though, social interactions was a piece of cake. So yeah, joined in there, had some great banter, and there was one girl there, Jacqueline, I think that's her name, that apparently is also a mechanical engineer, so hopefully that connection will pay off at some point, because all the people I know have moved on because of my year break, and I'm going to need teammates. But yeah, we played this crazy game of Uno, and mostly it was just fun to flex my social muscles with people I didn't know. And as far as I can tell, I did quite well. So yeah, did that, worked on singing nasally, because Rowan told me to do that, and then I did Funame, worked on recording Live Demo backlog, and then spent a good amount of time updating those. Thereafter, I went to John's place to hang, and while at the start of the hangout was quite average, some good old Magic games, we then did something novel. I tried smoking a cigar. And that was certainly a flattering picture that I got of me smoking a cigar, but we press on. Anyway, this is the thing John's gotten into quite a bit as of late, and he wanted me to try it, so I humored him, and honestly, it was okay. I don't feel that much different, maybe I just wasn't attentive to my body, but there just, wasn't much of a feeling there. But, nevertheless, there is that, refined philosopher appeal to smoking a cigar for me. I just feel more dignified and elite. So honestly, that's the real draw. But fear not, I have no intention of start smoking, if for no other reason than the exorbitant cost of cigars. Because I have considered it. I nevertheless have considered it to be fun to buy a pipe and then smoke non-tobacco substances in that. Because then you get the vibe with the nicotine, which sounds like a win-win to me. But anyway, after, other than cigars, and also the wind. It was mega windy, and the branches were being blown down and stuff left and right. It was a really, windy day. The big significant thing that happened was John and I had a very good talk. Certainly the deepest conversation we've had this far, and hence I very much enjoyed that. After that, I came home, had great food and funame, worked on backlogging life updates, went on a brief walk in the wind with my AOT cape thing, and then I read the very last of the unopened letters before going to sleep. Church ensued the next morning. I participated, though I ended up leaving a bit early because of, from the social gatherings because I was bored. Only discovered that I was dumb because the 45 minutes I got when I got home were not enough to do any serious philosophy. So, oh well, you live and you learn. Hence, I stalled until D&D and then I participated in what was a slog, but nevertheless I made it through. Afterward, Peter and Maddie, the semi-regular B-Stud members, attended and we had a conversation about beauty and what it consisted of, and I enjoyed that. Always fun to philosophically ramble. After that event, I left, as presumably people weren't going to be doing much of anything. I went home and did some backlog recording, and then proceeded to talk with Sydney, online Sydney, about the Airbnb to get booked for the Maryland trip that I'll be doing with Bench and Grace. I'm actually quite looking forward to that. It should be big fun. Thereafter, I did more Life of Demo backlog recording, and I called it a night. The next morning, I decided to I would do things a bit differently and read philosophy until I got hungry, and then I did my breakfast routine. I think that was a good idea. I'll probably do more of that in the future. I then did philosophy, did the big communication with all the peoples, walked with Benj as we listened to our respective podcasts and audiobooks, played some fantastic spikeball with Joe, Ben, and Benj, and honestly, both Benj and Joe are quite good. Not like Benj and I level good, but still very good. It's a lot of fun playing with him. Very good competitive games. Oh, also, Ben let us try his assortment of jelly beans, which are way more varieties of jelly beans than I thought they existed. And I must say, Jolly Rancher jelly beans are fire. Big good. Once Michael racked up, and I wasn't tired this time, by the way, my body's recovering, and it feels fantastic. I got home, took a shower, and recouped some. I then drove with Neo to Joe's, ate food, and did D&D, which was like a bit more scandalous than typical D&D, but we don't talk about that. And yes, it really was my fault, so I accept most of the responsibility. Once I got back, Grace and I went on a drive where she had some big introspective thoughts, which she shared, and we brainstormed solutions to a thing. And then we did a baby hike, and we looked over the city at night, and it was cool. Fort Collins really is massive. Also, city gazing is way better than I remembered. Tuesday was the breakfast routine. Classes, no journalism class, though. Actually, I don't know if that's true. All I know is that everyone started leaving at some point in time, and I just assumed they have to have a good reason. And so I was like, maybe class is canceled, and so I joined them. Try to live by Buford's life model, you know? And I quote, "My mom always said if all my friends were jumping off a cliff, I should too." Famous and fair, really is true. It's full of great wisdom. Once I got home, I read philosophy, talked with mom, and got noodles. I did more philosophy, and then worked on my life deal backlog. Then more philosophy, then Funime, then Grace's friend Katie came over, and with some difficulty, I discovered her type was an ISFP, which explains the difficulty. ISFPs have like 18 different layers of defenses, false walls, and hidden passages. Cracking an ISFP is like breaking into the US Treasury or something. It's both immensely vexing and needlessly challenging. But that's what makes it intriguing. Anytime someone says you can't do something, I'm like, bet. Karina, someday I will know your inner life. It'll happen. Just you wait. You can't ISFP me forever. I say that, but we totally both know she can. Like, I'm not actually delusional enough to think I can crack an ISFP against their will. Well, unless I use torture. But that seems a little bit like out of the spirit of the enterprise, so I think I'll refrain for now. Anyway, Katie was an ISFP, which makes big sense. I then read Spiral Dynamics and walked some, and then I read some more Spiral Dynamics till bed, and my brain was blown. I am 100% stage 5 orange, just entering stage 6 green. Like, reading through that, it felt as if someone was reading my mind. Creepy and disconcerting, yet also enthralling. Wednesday morning routine, life did backlogs, and then Spiral Dynamics reading took place. I then talked with Joe for 3 hours about Spiral Dynamics reading and other things. We had Wendy's and did more reading, and then a bit of Spiral Dynamics, and then sleep. As for yesterday, that consisted of a routine, class as usual, Spiral Dynamics reading, finding Ben's stage. He's actually a stage 5 as well. He's mid-stage 5. So like a third step behind me. Playing Johanna in table tennis before going to Ben's house where Johanna, Benj, and I all played spikeball. It took a bit of finagling to make the teams evenish, but it turns out that if Benj and Ben both play left-handed, then it's a pretty even match between Johanna and I against them. Thereafter, Thursday night, things occurred which Joe, bless that man, proposed we mix things up. However, and that doubts keep going. Hence, after eating 6 waffles and then making me feel sick, we then drove to Boulder for donuts, and it was decent. Not the greatest of hangout activities, but mildly interesting, and I appreciated mixing things up. Once we got back, Joe and Neo worked on Neo's upcoming campaign magic system, which apparently Joe enjoys building stuff like that, so they've hit it off, which is fun. And I ranted to Noah about the various things I hate in philosophy. I feel like I've become a curmudgeon-y philosopher as of late. I mean, I've read over like 2,000 pages of top-notch philosophy essays in this cancer time, so I feel like I've earned the right to be a bit curmudgeon-y, you know. It's just philosophers are real idiots sometimes. Like, take Haseides as an example. Assuming the interpretation of Haseides that don't just reduce the thisness to one, reduce it to a thisness, okay, I'm going to start over, sorry. Assuming the interpretation of Haseides that doesn't just reduce it to a thisness is the one that we're talking about, the notion of Haseidi as a primitive, non-multiply instantiable property, where its content is the thisness of the thisness which it adheres. So, that's the content we're talking about. Basically, it's a suchness whose content is the thing's thisness. And the idea is that then this makes this thing a this such by, thus having it be a thisness with suchness. But it doesn't work this way. Clearly, that's dumb. Because if the suchness could have the content of a thing's thisness, which it can't, by the way, I demonstrate this in my thisness and suchness paper, but, basically thisness and suchness must remain logically distinct or face absurdity. But even if it weren't the case, in order for there to be a suchness, there would have to already be, logically, not temporally, mind you, a this such prior to the suchness that makes the suchness that can pick it out. If there were only a thisness prior to the Haseidi, then the Haseidi wouldn't have any content to add to thisness and thus make it, thus it wouldn't be a suchness. So you couldn't have a contentless suchness. That wouldn't make sense. Hence, for a Haseidi to do the thing they're supposed to do, they have to both be logically prior and logically posterior to the thing being a this such, which of course violates necessary conditions for grounding and thus is absurd. But no! Everyone's like, we could just fix things with Haseidis, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, my guy, do a half a think. It's also vexing sometimes. I expect so much from humanity, and yet I'm constantly disappointed. Anyway, I ran to know about that. I think he understood, which is an accomplishment in of itself. And then I went home and slept. And what better way is there to end the life of the email than complaining about how those that are clearly smarter than me are idiots? I certainly think of none. So, huzzah! Thank you for your attention and time, and now go out into the world and restore my faith in humanity, mostly by not being dumb.